That's what we need to start
You're
doing.
describing conversion therapy right now.
Okay, fine. Okay, and then call it what you want. But that's what we should be doing long before.
I'd way
we can start
rather
this
throw
country
around a
for one,
couple
and that's what we
insults
should
and
be doing
ad
with
homs than be an
puberty.
actual beta who unironically supports conversion therapy, dude.
What is with
Seriously,
this beta? Stop being a child.
your mom
You
should
are
have
an adult.
swallowed.
You
Your
can
mom should have
stop with this
swallowed.
Hey, what's up? You got me. I'm telling you, I've been here the whole time, fam. I have been here the entire
So you're
time.
saying who hurt me and Vosh trained me well or something? What's the deal with that?
You seem like really inspired by Vouch. I see a lot of Vouch in you recently. Kind of like the semantic way that you guys argue, a huge amount of the, I guess you could say, like liberal politics you have now, or more like extreme lefty type of politics you guys have.
So you think I'm an
seems to be greatly,
you think I'm an extreme lefty?
Influenced. Yeah, well, I close to it. You and Vouch are definitely on that side.
So what makes me okay? Before we get into the Vosh
even then,
because I don't even watch Vosh hardly at all. So you need to. I would like to know why you think that I'm. Hold on.
I don't even want to talk about Vouch.
Okay, good. I would like to know what makes me an extreme lefty, because if you're comparing me to Vosh, like Vosh is way more left than me.
I don't really want to talk about that.
Wait. Too bad. Then you shouldn't have said it when talking to me. So explain to me what makes me a far lefty, and then you can pose the next question.
And the reactions you were having actually I thought were a little all over the place and kind of over the top, honestly. Right, especially when you consider that
I would be more than happy to talk to you about that. But first,
when you first came on YouTube, you were a conservative Christian, meaning that you, among anyone else, should probably have a much stronger and better understanding of Christianity.
I do.
And the way that you reacted was just silly, which is one thing I kind of wanted to talk about, actually.
Okay, we will talk about it. But first,
I think
you need to. All right, I'm going to mute you now. You need to tell me why I'm a far lefty and how that makes me comparable to Vosh. What is a position that you've seen me say or that you believe that I hold that in your mind that's like a far lefty position?
The fact that we can't define what a woman is. You did it when you were reviewing, was it Matt Walsh's What is a Woman thing? Mm-hmm. You echoed a lot of different arguments that Walsh was making. Actually, in a recent debate he was having with a philosopher the other day.
It's funny you say that, actually, because you realize that if you looked at my Matt Walsh video and then you looked at Vosh's debate came out after my video. So how am I drawing inspiration from Vosh?
Vosh has been saying this stuff for a minute now.
So how am I drawing inspiration from Vosh if I was making the same arguments that Vosh was making when I made the video first?
I don't think that you would have made the arguments first. I'm certain Vouch made the arguments first, and you probably were influenced by it.
So, first of all, I'm fine giving a definition of woman. I already say that a woman is usually somebody who identifies themselves with feminine traits and characteristics. Their self-perception lines up with the socially constructed view that we have of femininity or of masculinity. That's more or less what a woman would be. So that's not a far lefty position. It's more just a position that recognizes the nuance. When you say that I'm a far lefty and then compare me to Vosh, you realize that Vosh is a socialist, right? I'm a capitalist. That's leagues apart.
Okay.
So are you willing to walk back when you said that I'm a far leftist like Vosh?
I can walk it back. Sure.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that. Do you want to go on to the next subject then?
No, yeah, definitely. I more want to discuss your perception of Christianity and how it's honestly the worst possible interpretation, especially when you come from being said Christian.
Okay, go for it.
I think we'd probably have to go back to the different things you were saying, I guess during the live stream. But I think one thing that was really apparent to me was you're basically upset with, I guess her name was Gothic, saying that these social justice warriors aren't very Christian-like. But that's kind of her entire point. So if you're arguing that they're not Christian-like, then you're not disagreeing with her. You're just bashing Christianity at that point.
No, I was bashing the fact that she was the standards by which she was measuring religiosity or Christianity or godliness were not only woefully vague and virtually undefined, they were completely arbitrary as well. Anybody can throw a label on something and then find a Bible verse that kind of fits that label and then say, look, you're not Christian. That's why I did the same thing that she was doing. I don't care if social justice warriors are Christian or are not Christian. I don't even think I argued that social justice warriors are Christian. My main argument in regards to that was that atheism doesn't necessarily lead to communism.
Maybe not necessarily so, but they definitely go hand in hand. But
no,
I will say that.
Wait, did you really watch the video? Because I dismantled that point.
I came in halfway through. I probably didn't watch that part of it.
Okay, well, I'll just explain to you really quickly. So the Scandinavian countries, for example, are very high in no religion. They are capitalist. They have low gun violence, and they are wait, what was I saying? Oh yeah, and they're capitalist. So we have this one country here where they are largely irreligious and capitalist. Why did that
anti-religious is my first question.
So why did
there could be a lot of different factors as to why they would be capitalist and atheistic. I mean, but the two may not even be related to each other.
Are you familiar with Cuba?
In different communist countries, yeah, they're pretty atheistic.
They're also pretty Christian,
I guess.
They have a huge chunk of people that are Christian and some.
I'm talking about in like China.
I'm talking about Cuba. There's a large chunk of people that are Christian and a large chunk of people that aren't, and that's a communist country. So it almost seems as though there's really no correlation with religiosity or lack of religiosity with, or communism or capitalism.
Yeah, I think that's fine. But again, like I'm still mostly concerned with the worst possible interpretation you've had with Christianity when discussing with Gothics. Because for one, if she puts up a standard for what makes a Christian and the person doesn't adhere to the standard, that's just using language. That's just a definition.
No, her standard is arbitrary and made up. Her standard is arbitrary and made up.
How's her standard arbitrary made up if she's literally reading from the Bible? Here's the credence. They failed to meet this
down and wrote out things that she would attribute to BLM and then found verses to try and back herself up. Verses that, mind you, were incredibly vague. Hold on. Verses that were incredibly vague and verses that could equally be applied to the complete opposite of a lot of what she was claiming.
All right, give me an example of how one could work as for and against the same point.
Sure. Let me go ahead and pull up my thing. So, when she... Let me go back here. Let's find it. Right here. Do not be conformed to this world. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, right. Now I remember. Sorry, I did it. This one right here. For the time is coming when people will not endorse sound teaching. They will accumulate for themselves teachers to suit their own passions. They will stop listening to the truth and wander off into myths.
That's pretty clear cut.
Do you think, really? Do you think that it means then that Gothics cannot be a Christian since she believes in conspiracy theories and myths regarding the Great Reset?
I don't think it's that heavy-handed, but you could say possibly. I think that.
So this is a verse that she was using to justify her own beliefs that can also be turned back around on her. That's the example you just asked for.
Yeah, perhaps that could work, but I mean, you say that because she believes in different conspiracies. I mean, believing in a conspiracy theory isn't a measure of whether it's wrong or right.
Wait, it's a myth. They're myths that she believes, like the Great Reset. That's a myth.
So, I mean, I don't know, like. If there's literally debates on whether it's actually happening or not happening, I find it hard to compare that to be a myth. Like, you don't think that it's happening.
What about her saying that
it is happening? So I don't.
Okay, fine. What about her opinion when it comes to masks? That it's part of some Marxist ploy to control the people.
I don't think it's literally the mask, but it's the mandation of the mask is trying to control people.
Any type of mandate or laws controls people, so that's a stupid argument.
Well, then
so once again, it's a myth. So it's a myth.
But it's not a myth. It's like if you're talking about the government is trying to find a way to convince you to do some particular frivolous thing that actually probably won't help, to see what they can do to see how they can control you, then that's her. I assume it's her argument.
You're reciting a myth right now to me, by the way. You just said a myth.
You're loosely using the word myth. I'm not saying I believe this. I'm saying if that's what she's saying, that it's not the mask literally. It's the government forcing you to do something that is not going to help. That's what she's saying. I believe.
Okay.
I could be wrong here. But
you're right. You could be wrong, but just in case that is what she was saying,
in
case that's what she was saying, I'll just make it clear real quick that one, the masks have actually been demonstrated to work, and two, believing something that is so patently false without any evidence whatsoever, I would chalk up to, yeah, probably a myth, a conspiracy, right along
you're
same...
still using the word myth very loosely.
So what would you consider a myth then, mister?
So what I'm pretty sure what a myth is, or what they're referring to in that scripture, is that they're going to believe different things that they basically like want to believe. They're getting stuck in an echo chamber and only getting the same type of information received to them. So even if you tell them one thing is left, they're going to go right and say, I'm going to believe in that. I actually think trans issues are a really good example of this, particularly with the way that I've seen now, we're trying to take the word woman and apply a definition to it that's trying to be all inclusive when no other word in the history of any language has ever done that.
All right, so
every word exists to define something specific. You can't have a definition that includes everything.
Stop. Shh. Before we get into the whole trans thing, I will refine my argument, okay? Although I would say that the conspiracy definitely falls in line with myths, I will go ahead and read you the definition and then explain the myths that she does buy into. A traditional story, especially one concerning the early history of a people or explaining some natural or social phenomenon, and typically involving supernatural beings or events. Gothics is a Christian. Gothics also believes that God parted the Red Sea. Gothics also believes that Moses freed the slaves, which is all part of the Bible, which she claims to follow.
Moses got the Hebrew Israelites out of Egypt.
There is no record of anybody named Moses. There is no proof that the Red Sea was ever parted. And there is no evidence that 600,000 individuals crossed the desert, especially considering the time in primitive times like that. They absolutely left behind a fuck ton of bullshit. They would have crap from tables. They would have tents. They would have shit left behind. There was absolutely none of that left behind. So yes, if you don't have... I need to finish. If you don't have rational justification for your belief or for your claim, then yes, it is a myth.
Are you done?
Yes, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Even if I concede that the story of Exodus is a myth, that still isn't what that scripture was referring to.
How do you know?
I still wouldn't believe that.
Why are you telling me?
Mostly based on its context and the way she used it.
How are you able to tell me what the fucking Bible means? That seems a little arrogant, doesn't it?
I don't think so. I mean, if you read the context and take into like the time period and what they were talking about and discussing, you can get a good idea of what these people meant when they said what they said.
Really? For the time is coming when people will not endorse sound teaching. So first of all, what is sound teaching?
Okay, so good, reasonable teachings is going to help you live a better life.
Yes.
I would say. Definitely.
Reasoning based on rational justification, reasoning based on what the sciences show us, they can lead us to more sound understandings of the world. Gothics is denying the scientific consensus when it comes to issues like gay people or trans people, and instead is following biblical bullshit, which suits her own political beliefs that she already had. And now she is no longer listening to the truth that is given to us empirically demonstrated, and instead is wandering off into myths. So you are literally proving my point. Thank you very much.
But hold on. No, I can't, because then we have to counter with this. If the science is clear on one thing, especially with a lot of trans people, is that a lot of them are very depressed and a lot of them are prone to suicide, usually before and sometimes after going through reconstructive surgery. So if we look at those different studies, we can see that transitioning sometimes and most of the time doesn't actually help these people mentally.
That is a lie. You're telling me a myth now. So if she's looking at
that is not true. That is not a lie.
We need Mythbusters over here.
True.
Really?
That's absolutely
so you think
true.
The majority of trans
and these people are highly prone to a lot of different mental illnesses. Yeah. One of which being depression. These people are highly suicidal for a lot of different reasons.
I know.
So let's say that Gothics has this information, right? Okay, you could say that, but let's say she has this information. She's seeing that these people are depressed and prone to going into suicide. So what is she trying to do? She wants to stop these people from doing something that's going to hurt them. I'm also of the same mindset. Okay, so in this front, I'm
I
know
you are, but you're wrong. I think you and Gothics are both wrong. Well,
okay,
exactly. So let me just make it clear here that what you're saying right now, I could turn around just as easily and say, "Hey, dude, you know what I really feel like? I feel like a lot of Christians are pretty sad. So I just don't want you to be a Christian because I care about you, bro." That's about as good as what you're giving me right now. The difference is,
we have to argue the merits of that.
Quiet. I know we do. That's what I'm trying to do, but you literally won't shut the fuck up. So
go on.
There is not any evidence that Most trans people who transition are more suicidal or still are suicidal. We have the opposite.
I mean,
The majority of scientific...
look up some studies and
Sure,
compare
I'll
and
go get
contrast,
some for you right now in my notes, since I actually do research on this and you're talking out of your ass.
So we'd have to come back and be more formal about it.
No, we don't need to be formal about it at all. I'll pull some up right now for you.
Definitely.
Since you're denying reality and you're unfortunately buying into false teachings and buying into myths, it's very scary to me. It seems that you're not living a good Christian, Christ-like life.
Point, I could literally just say pot calling the kettle black if we want to be like that.
Really? Well, then why is why are my beliefs based on rational justification and yours aren't?
Mine are. The rational justification is a lot of these people, even after post-reconstructive surgery, are still suicidal.
It's not. You didn't say a lot. You didn't say a lot before. So now you're walking back. You said majority.
Very many.
You said majority. Do you think it's majority or a lot?
Then I'll have to. Then a lot. Then there you go. If that makes you feel better,
I have a question for you. It's very basic. So if you have an individual,
you're arguing particularities rather than the main idea.
I am not. The majority and a lot are very, very different things. The majority and a lot are very different things, my friend.
Okay. All right.
So let me ask you this. If I can show you a study that shows a lot of people that start taking Adderall for ADHD end up not being helped by that drug, should you then get up and say that Adderall is bad entirely and nobody should do it?
No, but I would have to look at that study.
Why is that? Why? Engage with the hypothetical. Engage with the hypothetical.
Look at the study.
Wait,
like
why?
You said, Adderall didn't help these people here. Okay, why? What are the conditions around the people that made it so it didn't help them?
It doesn't help a lot of people. There are studies that show, this is a hypothetical. Hypothetically, if I were to tell you that there are studies that show that a lot of people who take ADHD medication don't actually reap the benefits of that medication, which, by the way, I don't know the exact number, but there definitely is, I think 30 to 40% of people that take the medication, and this isn't a hypothetical, that actually don't reap the proper benefits. So should I then take that and say, Adderall, ADHD medicine is bad, nobody should be taking that medicine?
No, I would say.
So why are you arbitrarily applying your standard to trans people, but not to ADHD medication?
Well, the first thing is with trans people, you're literally reconstructing their bodies to do something.
You're reconstructing your brain with things like Adderall. Yes, you're literally changing the way in which your brain processes things.
Because that's a false equivalency. If I literally take the genital member of someone and I literally do the reconstructive surgery, it can neither work as a penis or a vagina. It's functionally useless at this point. And this was done so to make the person feel more comfortable. But it has not actually changed them from what they were from the beginning. So they're transitioning into something that is useless. They have useless organelles in their body right now.
If it was useless, then why does the scholarly research say that the majority of transition benefits trans people?
I think it does. I say most of the time it doesn't.
Okay, well then I don't care what you think. Here's Cornell University, a systematic literature review of all peer-reviewed articles between 1991 and June 2017 that assesses the effect of gender transition on transgender well-being. This search found a robust international consensus in the peer-reviewed literature that gender transition, including medical treatments such as hormone therapy and surgeries, improves the overall well-being of transgender individuals.
All right, based on what does well-being mean? Actually, send me the study.
Okay. You're coping right now, but okay.
Yes, you're supposed to cope. Yes. If someone gives you information, you're supposed to think critically about it and try to.
That's not what you're doing. You're coping.
That's what you're supposed to do.
That's not what you're doing. You're coping.
That's
you told me. Well, a lot of them are unhappy, bruh. And then I just
I
brought up a fucking study which you've clearly never even looked at in your life, and now all of a sudden you're like, well, I don't know. What does well-being mean exactly? After you've also already acknowledged that you arbitrarily applying this standard,
then there's no difference.
You're arbitrarily applying this standard to trans people.
And happy with what happened, you still find that very many trans people are not comfortable and happy with what happened.
Okay, well, I can still find that a lot of people are not comfortable or happy after taking ADHD medication or antidepressant medication. Should I then say that all of antidepressant or anti-ADHD medication is bad and should not be taken?
I still think it's a false equivalency because reconstructive surgery isn't taking an Adderall pill.
False equivalency. We're talking about the principle of the issue.
You're talking about medication and you're talking about reconstructive surgery to help a mental issue that's going on with them, which, by the way, is still far removed from what I initially wanted to talk about anyway.
Well, I understand that you feel that this is a false equivalency. You understand, though, I hope at least, that when you take antidepressant medication, you are changing the chemistry of your brain, sometimes to the point that your brain is unable to function without that medication anymore. Your body, your brain becomes dependent upon this, and you are restructuring your brain. So you are, in a way, restructuring. Yes, hold on.
Hunter,
you are, in a way, restructuring your body. I don't care if it's not exactly the same thing. That's the point of an analogy. So why is it that when it comes to this, which could potentially fuck somebody's mental well-being up for the rest of their life, leading to suicide, you're saying, meh, even if a lot of people are unhappy with it, I don't really care. But then with trans people, where we actually have a lot of...
I'd say the solution is wrong. I would say we would need a better solution for their depression, for their gender dysphoria, than reconstructive surgery. We'd need a better solution than redefining the word woman to make these people comfortable.
Do we have a better solution than giving ADHD medication or antidepressant medication?
I'm specifically talking about the trans issues that we're referring to.
And I'm giving you an analogy that you won't engage with.
Your analogy doesn't work is the problem. And I've acknowledged the analogy already. If you said 30 to 40% of these people who are using Adderall say it's not working on them, then they don't use it. That doesn't mean all of it doesn't work, but they don't use it.
So then why can't we not apply this with the trans?
Now, here's the issue. The issue is if 30 to 40% of people go through reconstructive surgery, they can't go back. They can't walk it back and get their body parts back after the damage has been dealt.
Sure.
So it's too permanent of a change on these people. The surgery is too much for an issue that may have lots of different solutions long before we get to that. So on that front, that's what I'm talking about there.
Okay, I can answer this easily. So when people go forward for gender reassignment surgery, there is already immense amount of compiled research on this individual demonstrating that they have gender dysphoria. It's not like an easy thing that you just walk into and then have it done. You consent to it. You're educated on what this means. You're told how the recovery process will go. You have time to think about it. You meet with therapies, you meet with doctors. There is a long process. And on top of all this, you must show consistent incongruence with your gender identity for a prolonged period of time. So what I would be willing to say is that by the time you reach gender reconstruction surgery, if you have gone through all the proper processes, that I think we can confidently assume that if this person is going to consent to this surgery, that they then can go and get that surgery, especially because the research shows that majority of trans people do actually benefit from it. I see no reason why you would be preaching against this.
Well, I explained the reason. For one, after the reconstructive surgery happens, they have organelles or organs that just are functionally.
Sorry, you cut out.
Do something it can't do.
That I don't care. They know this when they're going in to get the surgery. You're like telling me things that they would already have been educated on.
All right. So I still think that one of the biggest problems we have is even if making a sound or reasonable decision based on it.
You keep on cutting out. I'm sorry. I am trying to hear you. You keep skipping.
Yeah, I think so. I can see a little bit the internet is kind of flickering.
Okay.
Okay, 1 second. All right, how about now?
That sounds okay.
All right. So basically what I'm saying is the change is far too permanent. I think even with all this information, that is probably a long, arduous process to get this person there. I still don't even trust that they've really been correctly or like they fully understand
just the permanence of what they're doing.
I don't think that's being irrational. I think I'm being cautious about it.
No, but that's not being cautious. Being cautious is when you educate the person and let them make the decision.
After they make the decision. And I think one of the biggest problems here is just psychologically. People can make incorrect decisions under different type of duress or mental problems that they're having.
That's why you have to
You're talking about a person that is depressed. So they're already not working at their maximum capacity.
You're not actually getting it. I'll try this again.
Okay.
So this is why you make sure that the individual has gender dysphoria for a prolonged period of time. Months upon months, minimum of 6 months. Now, if somebody is under duress, most likely it's not going to be a consistent duress and disillusion for 6 months straight, especially after meeting with several therapists that all confirm you have gender dysphoria. Not to mention, we could also look at the regret rates. What is the likelihood that this is going to happen? Well, here are medical files of all people who attended Gender Identity Clinic from 1972 to 2015, and guess what they found? That there were, only 0.6% of trans women and 0.3% of trans men who underwent the surgery were identified as experiencing regret. So
how many people is that in general, though?
Let me I can pull it up back up.
How many people are in that study?
About 7,000.
Something. Okay.
So pretty good size. And here we have very low regret rates. On top of this, there are other surgeries that people do that are permanent, that they consent to, that has the potential for regret, that we still are fine with. Like, people get plastic surgery.
I'm not fine with that. I mean, you can't project that onto me.
So you would be against...
That'd be a separate discussion, though. I mean, but...
Well, all I'm trying to get at is that there are already surgeries that people do that are permanent, that as so long as they are adequately educated on the effects of the surgery and then consent to do so, then they have a right to make medical decisions involving their own body.
I didn't argue they didn't have the right. I argued that it wasn't a good solution.
Oh, okay.
I think it's two different things.
Got it. So
I never argued that anyone should be forced to not do X or Y. I think that if someone needs to, I think better solutions towards gender dysphoria should be crafted.
What are the better solutions?
Sexual. I think for one, we need to understand like why they feel this way or where the gender dysphoria comes from.
We already
if there's
know
some
why
trauma, if there's something that's going on with them, we try to figure that out. So
First
I don't know.
Of all, there's no evidence
at
all that anybody who's been abused as a child is more likely to be gay or trans. So there's no evidence there.
That's factually not true.
No,
but
it's true.
Regardless,
it's true, my friend.
That's not.
Second
true,
of all,
Hunter.
what is your?
Hunter, that's not true.
I'm trying to understand how you're reaching this conclusion that we should
just explaining to you how I reached this conclusion. Go ahead, ask your question.
You're saying that there should be better solutions made. We already have better solutions. They are, first, confirm that an individual is gender dysphoric. Once that has been confirmed, if they're young, they can go on puberty blockers.
Or maybe we don't put them on puberty blockers. Instead,
puberty
we try to figure out why are they?
Wait.
Why? Feeling this
your
way.
whole problem
and
with the surgery?
Instead of pushing them into one side, we try to get them to recognize that their sex and their gender may not be two separate wholes. There might be something else going on in that person's life.
So
what you're saying is
what you're advocating for right now is conversion therapy.
You're saying fair enough if that's what you want to call it.
That is by definition what you're advocating for.
If we're having these people have gender dysphoria. So instead of pushing them to actually trying to reassign their sex, because that's actually what they'd be trying to do, trying to reassign their sex, we actually try to figure out the mental problem that's going on. So I don't know. I don't have every single particular person, every single file.
It's obvious that you have very little information on this.
However, I do have a great amount of information on this. One of those things is that what we're doing here is when we have people with gender dysphoria, we're pushing them to actually trying to change their sex.
Something that is biologically
impossible.
You're going to let me respond or I'm going to mute you now because I've let you ramble now and you've spread a bunch of bullshit. Puberty blockers are largely reversible. So this is just a yes or no. Hypothetically, for the sake of argument, if I'm correct that puberty blockers are largely irreversible, are you okay?
Irreversible. You misspoke there.
Did I say it wasn't reversible?
You said irreversible, but I was.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know that. So for the sake of argument, assuming that I'm correct when I say that puberty blockers are largely reversible, would you be in favor of that as a possible solution? This is just a yes or no.
No.
Okay. So then what you're now demonstrating is that you're not only inconsistent, you're actually being a liar because your whole problem with the surgery was because it was permanent. Now I'm telling you about something that is not permanent and you're still against it, which makes me think that you actually have a underlying motivation here to oppose certain things about trans people that actually has nothing to do with whether or not it's permanent. Because now you're telling me you're also not in favor of things that are not permanent. The second thing is
two things can be true at the same time, Hunter. I can have an issue with puberty blockers and with surgery for two different reasons. So what's your problem? I can even have a problem with it for the same reasons, depending on what it is. So with puberty blocker, I already told you about the reconstruction surgery, but with puberty blockers, is I think that one issue that I would kind of have is on the early development of children, because they wouldn't be able to develop naturally as the sex that they actually are born as because you're blocking that. Even if it's reversible, you can't get time back, right? So when you're starting to go through puberty, when you're getting that different bone changes in density that you get from testosterone and whatnot, like you can't just go back and relive puberty. It's not how that works.
Yes, your body. Your body goes back to producing the hormones.
More testosterone.
Your body goes into producing the same hormones that you were previously blocking if you go off of the puberty blockers. That's what I mean when I say it's largely reversible. So there's that. And then the second problem is that when you said that...
So you're not actually going through puberty. You've blocked it.
I know. Yes, for a good reason.
I don't think that's a good reason.
They might have, wait, if they have gender dysphoria and are confirmed gender dysphoric, why then would it not be a good idea to temporarily pause puberty to give them more time to figure this out?
Because for one, we were talking about children, right? If you were talking about prepubescent. So a child doesn't have all the information or the mental faculties to make rational.
That's why they would
decisions.
go to multiple therapists.
All right, yeah. So it's the therapist's job as adults to look at the long-term effects of what's going on here and trying to give the child the best possible situation.
Right.
And blocking them from going through puberty that can damage them. The different changes they would have gotten from puberty if it had happened natural have just been stopped. So instead of doing that to this child, we actually talk to them.
You're saying this as if it is
it does matter.
You're saying this as if it's some big, bad, scary thing. That's the fucking point of puberty blockers. If you have somebody who is, hold on, shh. If you have somebody who is gender dysphoric, for the sake of argument, we're going to assume that they have been confirmed gender dysphoric, which, by the way, is the standards for the international transgender care, okay? So there's that. Then you literally put them on puberty blockers, give them a pause, let them further figure out if their gender identity is in line or isn't, if they want to pursue further surgery down the line when they are older, over the age of 18, then there's that. And you realize that if they go through the wrong puberty, that can further exacerbate the gender dysphoria, further leading to higher rates of suicide and depression. So that was what, hold on, that was what you just argued before. You said they have a whole bunch of problems with depression. You're right. Part of the treatment there is puberty blockers, my friend. And I'm sorry, but hold on, one more thing.
You're saying this is a treatment. I'm saying it's a bad treatment.
Okay, so I don't care. I'm saying gravity exists. You're saying gravity doesn't exist. I don't give a shit.
That is not an equivalent exchange.
Yes, it is, because I actually have evidence and data on my side, and you have shit. You have nothing. You have feelings. That's all you fucking have, dude. You have cheesy, cheap little fifis.
Literally fixing them or changing them and putting puberty blockers is because you're trying to fix their feelings.
Wait.
That's entirely what the problem is.
I thought you just invoked their suicidal feelings. So that's in regards to why trans people are bad.
So here's a mental, emotional problem.
I'm gonna mute you if you don't be quiet.
What?
Okay. What? So first of all, puberty blockers and gender affirming care was associated with a 75% drop in suicidal ideation. That's pretty significant, my dude. That's pretty big, okay? And that's really important too. So there's the fact about puberty blockers. Second of all, your solution is literally just, well, maybe try to convince them that their, you know, their gender and sex aren't actually different. That's called conversion therapy. Conversion therapy does not need to be strapping someone down and zapping them and torturing. It could just be. I never said that. I know, I said it doesn't have to be. It could also be somebody sitting down with a trans person and trying to talk them out of being trans. That's called conversion therapy. And by the way, there's a reason why it's banned in every single Western country, because it's been proven ineffective. Your solution is ineffective and leads to more death. My solution is demonstrated and leads to less death. Go ahead.
All right. For one, placating people's emotional feelings so they don't commit suicide isn't a solution to their suicidal problems. For one, so if you say that because we have, I'm explaining. So you're saying that these people are committing less suicide because we've given in to the problems that they're having. That's my whole issue. You're not actually solving the problem. You're playing into the problem. The problem is these people have gender dysphoria. Because it's not a problem. So you're trying to change their sex. Now, for one, definitionally, those would be two different things technically, but even if we just scratch that to the side, what you've done is not actually address the person's mental issues. You put them in a state where they literally cannot be what they think that they want to be. So they cannot become a female if they're a male. That's just impossible. And wait, no amount of puberty blocking,
so you're right that
hormones or reconstructive surgery doesn't change what they are biologically.
I know. And I don't care.
Okay.
The problem is that when you have a perception, hold on, when you have a perception of yourself, when you have an internal identity, and that identity differs, you're right. In this case, we would technically speaking be talking about, I guess, transsexuals, because we're talking about a sexual dysphoria here between your gender and whatnot. But for sake of argument, keep it simple. When you have somebody who has an internal perception of themselves that does not match their biology, that's the mental illness problem right there. That's the gender dysphoria. You treat it, yes, by validating the internal perception. It's very simple. We have brain scans which have shown that people who perceive themselves certain ways actually have the brain more in line with a brain that would otherwise be associated with a female, or if they identify as a male, more linked to male. So you can either make the body match the brain, but you can't really make the brain just match the body. I'm not sure how you would go about doing that. So again, my solution is the practical one, and it does help. The problem is the differentiation between the brain and the biology. So you're changing the biology.
But here's the these people have more of a female brain to a male brain. For one, you would have to have a standard of what that is. So we'd have to accept that we have a male and we have a female. But for two, you cannot change a male to a female. So even if they have the particular brain, the hardware,
you can give them the characteristics that
cannot be changed.
You could, I know. Obviously, you're not going to change somebody's DNA, okay? But what you're doing is
it's not just DNA. It's the whole. It's the whole sum, not just the DNA, the actual genitalia, what type of sex gametes you produce. It's the whole thing cannot be changed.
You can take hormones and change that. You can literally have your. You can have.
No, you can't.
You can have gender reassignment surgery. You can have breast implants. You can be put in line as much as possible with the physical, biological makeup that you would prefer to be. That is what you do. Wait, hold on. If that's the case, why do suicide rates go down after treatment?
Because you placated to them, Hunter. That's why. But for one, can our penises give birth to children? The answer is obviously going to be no. Can our breasts, if we get breast implants, can they produce milk? The answer is obviously no.
Actually, yeah, males can lactate. No, that's wrong. Males can lactate.
Actually, yeah, you're right. You can. Yeah, my bad. But actually, if you get plastic surgery, then it's tough to lactate. But that's
there's plenty of people, by the way, who are women who have vaginas who cannot give birth.
Okay, all right. Particular circumstances don't change a definition in principle.
It's not a particular. It's actually very common. Do you know how many women are born every year? Are literally born every year without a uterus?
Well, okay, then we'd have to discuss that. But
are they still women?
Still wouldn't. Probably so, I would say.
Okay.
If they're born without a uterus, I mean,
if someone's trans and they have,
you might need a new word.
I'm muting you. So if somebody's trans and then they transition and have the physical characteristics that are more in line with their self-perception, but they can't give birth, it sounds to me like that's actually irrelevant. Why does that matter?
Irrelevant at all. I know. For one, you created a particular circumstance. If we're talking about a general definition of something, of what is a woman and what is a male, if you say that there are some that can't give birth, it doesn't change generally that females in any species are the ones that give birth.
So about 1 in 20 women have some mild change in the shape of the uterus that will never affect them. About 1 in 5,000 women are born without a uterus.
It doesn't matter. And it sucks for them, but it doesn't change.
Why are you saying that the trans people aren't valid because they can't give birth? But you're telling me that women are still women if they can't give birth.
I will explain. I will explain exactly why. Because you have transitioned someone by a lot. You've given them a solution that is not a solution. You've placated their feelings, but you haven't actually changed them from male to female. They're biologically still what they were before.
Doesn't
matter. If you give them reconstructive surgery, then they just have useless parts at this point.
Doesn't matter.
And you've done all of this to make them feel better instead of actually addressing the issues.
So what do you do to actually address the problem, please, Mr. Big Brain?
So you're not really fond of conversion therapy. I guess we can call it conversion therapy if it makes you feel better. We could probably figure out better solutions. I don't know. Well, we would probably need to take it on an individual case-by-case basis. That's what I would love to do. Now, I can't do this. I don't have the power, but that's what I'd love to do, take it on an individual case-by-case basis. Again, I can't implement this, but I'd love to do that.
So on a case-by-case basis, you realize we already have gender identity clinics for that very purpose.
Yeah, but they're biased. They're not here to stop these people.
Look at how many people get referred and then are dismissed.
Dysphoria.
Wait,
okay?
Look how many people are referred and then dismissed because they're confirmed not gender dysphoric. So your general solution, it sounds like, is sitting down with somebody who thinks they have gender dysphoria and trying to talk them out of it.
Sure.
Okay.
Check out some trauma.
So we've already done that. We've already tried that. Conversion therapy has never been demonstrated to work.
Okay, and then you try to push them into being something they quite literally never can be. And say, we've done it. We fixed
Their
them.
internal perception can line up with their biology with the gender reassignment surgery. That is the point.
Okay.
You're literally, I just think it's funny that you're advocating right now for more death. You're pro-death over here, okay? You're advocating to literally make the mental health of an already marginalized group worse just by, well, we should just try to talk them out of it. Even though that's never fucking worked, you troglodyte. Second of all, be quiet.
Medicine.
That has never fucking worked.
Medicine's better.
All right, you're muted.
Medicine.
That has never fucking worked. Not once, okay? It's a reason why we got rid of conversion therapy, first and foremost, okay? Second of all, you are trying to make their biological makeup more in line with their internal perception. Yes, you're never going to change your chromosomes or something. But you know what? You can change your external biology to the point that you are more comfortable and your biology is more in line with your internal perception. That is why we see the mental health improve of trans people after surgery and after treatment. All right, you're unmuted now.
No, I think my response is largely the same. I think you've placated their feelings without any acknowledgement that they were incorrect to begin with.
They're not incorrect. Their internal perception is correct.
It is absolutely incorrect. There have been times where your perception on something can be wrong.
You're right. That's why you're confirmed gender dysphoric for months on end.
Okay, if you're confirmed gender dysphoric, that means confirmed that you think that you're the wrong gender, which means we think you're wrong, and now we have to quote correct it.
Wait, yes. If you have an internal perception that deviates from your biological makeup and that causes a significant amount of distress, you treat that by trying to bring the body more in line with the perception of the brain.
Okay, and my response is you physically cannot do that. It is physically impossible to bring the person to the sex that they are.
Do you mean that we won't be able to change their chromosomes? Like what part will not be able to change?
The whole sum. It's not just chromosomes. It's not just DNA. It's not just body parts. Now, socially, you could say that the person can express themselves in however which way they want, right? So if gender is your social expression of what you generally would see in a male or a female, that's perfectly fine. They can do that as much as they want. But as far as messing with their hormones, giving them puberty blockers or reconstructive surgery, you're literally trying to change their body into something they cannot physically be.
How can they physically cannot be that thing?
Because you can change their biology. They won't produce sperm. They won't be able to hold children. So they can't.
You've already said that women who cannot give birth are still women, and also I'm pretty
women
sure
who can't give birth aren't trans women. They weren't born males that are then trying to get reconstructive surgery.
Hey, I got a vasectomy. Am I no longer a man because I can't produce sperm?
Okay, a particular circumstance does not change what something means in principle. So one, you've already had children. So even if you have a vasectomy now, you've already had children.
So what if somebody's born infertile? Can they still be a man?
Have that capacity.
Can they still be a man?
It doesn't change anything.
Wait, can they still be a man if they're born infertile?
Yes.
So then what you're saying has nothing to do with anything. Okay. I don't know how much longer I can literally talk to an actual fucking retard.
I'm gonna give you a good example of what you're doing.
You're retarded.
I keep telling you
you're retarded.
This is a car. And then you respond with, there are no tires on the car. And I say, okay, it's still a car. The whole of the thing is what makes it so. So if you say particularly that car doesn't have a windshield, it doesn't change the fact that the whole sum of what we have here is a car. So the whole sum
this is
of what
why
makes
you can
a man
change the whole sale.
It's not one particular circumstance.
Okay, hold on.
You can
change your genitals. You can change your hormones. You can change whether or not you have breasts. These are some of the most dominant indicators of your sex, all of which you can change. The things you cannot change are the ability to give birth or produce sperm. That is largely irrelevant. The inability. Hold on.
That's the problem. It's not
quiet.
Irrelevant.
The inability to produce sperm is not what's causing the distress. The distress and the suicidality and depression is caused from the lack of biological characteristics that align with your internal perception. So that's why you change those things, and that's why you see the suicide rate go down. I don't think you understand that what you're arguing for right now is unironically more death. You're in favor of more death.
I'm in favor of better solutions.
Yeah, your better solution is conversion therapy when it's never fucking worked.
It's not reasonable to use pathos to say that you want more people to die to say my argument looks bad.
Well, I already tried to use logic and you failed on that front, so maybe I can get through to you.
That's not true. That's not true. I literally have used multiple different logical arguments.
Really? You don't think empirical evidence demonstrating my position?
And go to some random bad mishmash type of analogy that doesn't work with what I just said.
No, I didn't. And also, I don't know how you can say that I'm not being logical when I'm literally presenting scientific research that absolutely demonstrates my conclusion, whereas you've done nothing but just fix it, bruh.
For one, like
fix
I said,
it, dude. Just fucking fix it, man.
I already told you I wasn't prepared for a formal debate on trans issues. Wow. My bad on that front.
Yeah, I know why now. No, we're done, dude. Fuck you. You're a huge piece of shit, man.
Wow.
Yeah, seriously. You're actually like a major cunt.
That's spineless.
Honestly,
that is so spineless.
It isn't spineless. We've talked for a long-ass time, and you've done nothing but waste my time.
On exactly what I didn't fucking want to talk about. You're being a worm. That's what you're being.
Why would you go into this with me?
Hilariously spineless.
Why would you voice your opinion about this then?
I literally told you I wanted to talk about your perception of Christianity and why is it the worst possible interpretation.
Tell you what, I'll give you 5. You know what? I'll give you 5 more minutes.
Gone down this rabbit hole.
I'll give you 5 more minutes.
I don't even think that's a discussion you can have in 5 minutes.
It's just I don't know how else to continue this discussion without being ableist because, like I said, you're actually retarded.
Oh, that's really mature.
Yeah.
Incredibly
just as mature as advocating conversion therapy when it's never fucking worked.
I'm not the one using high school insults, fam. Come on.
Okay. Well, I think that high school insults for the person who seems to be pro-death is actually completely fine.
Again, you're being really you're using
so maybe that's I'm okay with that, you know?
Pathos type arguments.
Bring on the high school insults, okay? For the pro-death guy, yeah, bring it on. Bring it on.
So different solutions, better solutions than reconstructive surgery concluded I'm pro-death. That's absurd.
Because I asked you, did I ask you what, wait, did I ask you, yes or no, what your solution was? And then you said try and maybe talk them out of it.
Okay, so you literally whittle it down into the straw man of try and maybe talk them out of it.
What else is there to do?
Individual therapy, where we look at the person's trauma, we look at their history, we look at what's going on with this person.
What does that do?
There could be a biological problem. What it does is it gives them better options for their life than puberty blocking, than different type of hormone replacement therapy.
What other options are there?
Surgery.
What are the other options?
I literally just told you the other options.
Okay, so you go to the therapist.
Other options are far better than we go to a therapy, you say you have this condition, and instead of trying to alleviate it, we play into it. Instead of trying to help the individual, who, again, prepubescent, which if we're using puberty blockers, they're a child. They're probably 9, 10. They don't know left from right at this point.
Is bullshit.
They're kids. And it's, that's dumb. BS.
Yeah, that's huge BS. So you're telling me you didn't have a crush on anybody in high school when you were like 12?
Who didn't have the same knowledge, who don't have the same wisdom which we as adults have. It's bullshit to say, okay, young man, young lady, you're having these feelings, okay, but you haven't actually experienced life.
So when you say
you have experienced life, we're going to try to help you move forward with this.
I don't think we can. Yes, because I don't think we can actually listen. I don't think we can assess this based on age because I don't know how old you are, and you clearly never experienced life, or else maybe just maybe you wouldn't actually be this fucking stupid.
You're being a child. Stop with the ad hominem attacks and argue the point that I'm making. Children have no wisdom. And they cannot make rational or good decisions.
You have no wisdom, and you cannot make moral or rational decisions.
I said wise decisions. Children, they have intelligence. Children
so you also can't make wise decisions.
They don't have the life experience that we have.
Okay, congratulations.
So instead of going,
you're the equivalent of a child.
Instead of going into, okay, so you have what, gender dysphoria, young child.
What is the opposite of not giving into it? What is the opposite of not, when you say we shouldn't give into this, we shouldn't validate this, what is the opposite? What should be done?
What should be done is trying to ascertain why they feel this way and trying to fix it.
All right, so you figured it out. You figured out that, they were abused as a kid, and that's part of the reason why they feel this way. Now what?
Now we put them through therapy.
And the therapy does what?
So the therapy addresses the trauma, tries to help them figure out better solutions and ways to cope, tries to help them re-understand that what happened to them or like their internal view of themselves doesn't match the biological part of themselves. That's what we need to start doing.
You're describing conversion therapy right now.
Okay, fine. Okay, and then call it what you want. But that's what we should be doing long before.
I'd way rather throw around a couple insults and ad homs than be an actual fucking beta who unironically supports conversion therapy, dude.
What is with this beta? Stop being a child.
Your mom should have swallowed. Your mom should have swallowed. If your mom had swallowed, the world would be a better place. The world would be a better place. Okay, yeah. Welcome to high school, motherfucker. If your mom had swallowed, the world would be a better place.
Again,
fuck you.
Being a child.
Ban for being major cunt. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you get notified when I drop a new video.